Good evening, folks. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this special meeting of the Kennebunkport Selectboard. Today is the 11th of February. I'm calling the meeting to order at 6 p.m. We are meeting tonight to receive feedback on the tour bus mechanisms within Kennebunkport. Dave Bancroft has been the closest to this, so I'm going to turn the microphone over to Dave, and he will be facilitating to receive your comments.
Thanks. So good evening, everyone, and quite a turnout. And I know that we have people on Zoom.
Oh, I'm sorry. I do
sorry.
need to acknowledge that. Alan, can you hear us, please?
His mic is off, but he's waving, saying that you can hear us.
I'm here.
Yeah, he's there.
No.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Good, Alan. Thank you.
So just so everyone knows, all the select board members are here. Alan is just zooming in. The reason we wanted to have this tonight, we realize from residents and from businesses, I think from our own experiences in town, that the tour bus situation in Dock Square is an issue. And how are we going to deal with it maybe for this season and then longer term? But the focus for tonight really is on what we're going to be able to do for this upcoming tour season, which will start in May and go through the very first or second day in November. You should each have a copy of the current ordinance as it pertains to tour buses in the town of Kennebunkport. That is the ordinance that the board has the ability to make some changes to as a board. And so what tonight is we want to try and get some feedback from people. What is the experience that you're having? How would you like to see this improved? What are the advantages, disadvantages? I do want to make something clear. The town and the board has no intention of banning buses. We have no intention of stopping buses from coming. I think there are some people who are concerned about that. We fully understand that this is a town that a lot of people like to come and visit. They come, whether they come and stay for the week, whether they come and stay for the season, whether they come in for a day or a couple hours, they come in on buses, they come in cars. Many of us are probably in this town because at some point we came and actually were a tourist in the town. So I just want to make that clear. We understand that, and that we are not trying to ban them. I think we understand, though, that we are a town that was built centuries ago. Our infrastructure is in place. We can't change Dock Square. We can't change the landscape of Dock Square, and that we may be getting to a situation where the infrastructure cannot support what we have coming and may need to change, but people are still going to come, so we need to manage it the best way we can. So we have to currently work off the ordinance that you all have in front of us, in front of you, and there are some things in there that people may want to address that they may feel is an issue. I will put a couple things out there. Number one, it does allow for up to 10 minutes for bus to load and unload. Engines are supposed to be turned off. No more than 10 commercial tour buses per hour from the hours of 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., which basically comes to about 100 buses. You could think of that as 50 buses because eventually they have to drop off, they have to pick up. So it's 50 buses doing a drop off and pick up. And it does allow for up to 4 buses on Cross Street. I'm just going to say that is the ordinance. Doesn't mean that it works. That is the ordinance. People can feel free to address those parts of the issue. Longer term solutions are not going to be, I don't think bringing them up tonight is going to solve what the board is trying to hear about how to deal with the immediate issue. That would be phase one. The longer term solutions, I think, are a longer conversation that probably needs to happen over the course of the next year. But those will continue. Part of this is to be open and transparent. I think a lot of people feel that the town sometimes makes decisions in a vacuum. People aren't listened to. This is your opportunity to be listened to. It's a little bit different. It's being called a select board meeting only because 5 of us are here, so we have to declare it a select board meeting. But this isn't, don't feel that, we're kind of here to take comments, and we may ask some questions of comments, but this isn't a back and forth. It's not a debate. We ask you to be respectful of everyone who comes up and speaks. We're going to try and limit it to 3 minutes. Given the size of the room, my goal is not to have you here all night long. So we might have a hard stop at some point in time. If you feel that your comments have been said by the last 7 people in front of you, you can feel that someone else has spoken for you. But I just want, this is going to be a casual back and forth, but it's not a debate, and it's not there can't be any back and forth between the people speaking. So with that.
We would like to have everyone heard before
Yes.
someone has a second comment.
Yeah. So, and there may be some questions that the board may have to ask, or just clarifications, just so people are more, understand of the situation that we are in, or why we're here, or what is going on. So with that, I'm gonna open it up. And you should feel, I would prefer that, you could stand up and stand in line, or you could put your hands up and we will just call you up to the mic. When you come up to the mic, we're just gonna ask you to give your name, who you are, where you are from, and maybe who you're representing, and we'll go from there. So the first hand that went up, come on up.
I apologize to everyone that don't have my back toward you, and it's so great to see so many residents turn out tonight. So I'm Dorset Starr.
No, you
I'm
have to
sorry.
talk into
I
the
have
mic,
to talk
sorry.
into the microphone.
You
Sorry.
do
Hello.
have to look at us.
I'm gonna look at you guys. Okay, perfect. Hi, I'm Dorset Starr. I'm a longtime year-round resident. I've seen an increase in the number of motor coaches in Kennebunkport over the last few years, and the need for stricter regulation and a reevaluation of how the tour groups visit the town is desperately needed. I have witnessed motor coaches violating numerous town codes and causing safety issues. These include, according to the Kennebunkport Town Traffic Code 160-23, commercial operation of tour buses, motor coach engines are required to turn off while loading and unloading passengers. This is not happening. 10-minute limit for loading and unloading on Cross Street. This is also not happening. Unloading on only the south side of Cross Street. That's not happening. I've seen the buses side by side many times. Prohibited from stopping and standing on Spring Street. This happens all the time while the buses are waiting for an opening on Cross Street. On October 8th, I was at a dead standstill on Spring Street for 15 minutes just trying to get to the post office on Temple Street. Traffic Code 160-20. Motor vehicles are prohibited from driving on sidewalks. Not only are the buses doing this, they cause other vehicles to go on the sidewalk to allow enough room for the buses to make the turn. Has the town issued any violations for these infractions? What if an emergency vehicle needs to get through? The motor coaches contribute to a significant gridlock, especially as they enter and wait on Spring Street. Traffic frequently backs up along Main Street. At times, Cross Street and Union become completely blocked. Every single one of these tour buses, turning from Main Street to Spring Street, crosses over the lane of oncoming traffic. The problem doesn't just stop at Dock Square. Ocean Avenue and Wilds District Road are also heavily impacted. Walking along Parsons Way is dangerous when one of these enormous motor coaches passes. I no longer feel safe walking my dog. I have completely stopped during the fall months. I've seen stones and debris being kicked up by the large tires and thrown in the direction of the sidewalk. The bus's body is so large and comes so close to the sidewalk that I and other pedestrians are forced to move in as far from the road as possible. The tour buses often disregard speed limits, traveling quickly down Ocean Avenue and onto Wilds District Road. The entrance of my neighborhood is off of Wilds District Road, Woodlawn Avenue. It is at the bottom of a steep hill. Because the hill is a blind drive, the motor coach barrels down the hill way over the 30-mile-an-hour speed limit and making it treacherous to exit my neighborhood. With their speed and weight, approximately 41,000 pounds fully loaded, there would never be enough time for them to slow down or to stop to avoid an accident. I do have some thoughts, and I won't say them tonight, on what some possible options are, because you said let's not do that. But I want to just close with saying it is the responsibility of the town officials, select board, business owners, and every resident to protect the qualities that make Kennebunkport a special place to live. Kennebunkport is a town and a community, not merely an attraction for visitors. Many of us residents are not involved in the tourism industry, and our quality of life should take precedence over excessive tourism. The well-being of residents and the preservation of the town's character must remain the top priority. Our town is simply too small for the size of these tour buses. Thank you.
Thanks.
3 minutes, that's why I'm talking, you've got the 3 minutes. Good for you.
I talked fast.
Sarah, you want to?
Hi, my name is Sarah Vanderschaff. I live in Kennebunkport on Union and Main Street, and I'm a taxpayer. And the reason I wanted to come second, in part, is because I know what Dorset just said sounds almost too crazy to believe. And for anyone who hasn't been in town to see it, I've got the photos. So, yeah, and I'm happy to share them with anyone. These are only a fraction of the photos because I really understand that it almost sounds insane what we're saying, but it's true. I was walking to Scallywags in town to go buy dog bones, and a tour bus came around the corner on Cross Street, saw me, drove on the sidewalk where I was walking. I have a witness, and I had to hop the sidewalk to get on the grass, and I thought if I were impaired or I had my dogs or I had a stroller, I would be crushed. And this bus driver made eye contact with me. And I don't say that to criticize the bus driver as much to say that the problem is there's no accountability. The bus driver knew he could do that, and no one would ever say, hey, that's not okay. There was a community service officer on site. There was a greeter from the chamber on site at the time. I had to go to them and say, I was just run off this sidewalk. No citations. There have been no citations in at least 2 years, and I have we got the reports on that. We have the photographs, we have the reports, and what we're saying as taxpayers is that we would love to work with the tourism industry, as the main office of tourism is saying, and I'm so happy to see Chiara here. The idea of destination stewardship means that we work together because we know people value this community, and we steward it so that it's a win-win for everyone. But it does mean compromise, and it means not mischaracterizing us as residents to say that it's win or lose. What we're saying is there are ordinances on the books. They're not being enforced. We're saying they're 20 years old, and I don't know about you, but does anyone wear blue jeans from 20 years ago? Because I don't fit in mine, okay? And this town isn't going to fit in an ordinance written 20 years ago. So I encourage you to look at these photos. I'm sorry, 4 buses can't fit on Cross Street. 20 minutes was proposed because if they actually turn their engines off, that's not idling. My neighbor has to scrub diesel soot off her home. That home has lived through the Civil War, the War of 1812, World War I, World War II, anything in the Middle East, but it is getting eroded by diesel soot because it is on the corner of Cross Street. I'll leave it at that for now. I'll let other people talk about other things. I have to be up at 4 in the morning, so when I leave, it's not because I'm in a huff. It's because I have to wake up really early. I would like to say, am I allowed to leave this for anyone who might want to see it? Okay.
Anyone else want to?
So formal. I'm Janet Ballas. I live on 3 Temple Street, and I know that I have thoughts about over-tourism and all of that, but I'll save it because I think what we're talking about here is what we can do to get through this summer. I sit in my living room. I can see across to the pond. I see the bridge. I can see what's going on with the church. I see what's going on in the corners, Spring Street and Temple. So I know how busy it gets. There are 22 households. So I'm going to talk about the impact of the buses sitting and keeping people from getting on Temple Street. There are 22 households that have to turn onto Temple Street to get to their homes because of the one-way. There's the traffic for the church, there's weddings, there's funerals, there's trolleys, there's hearses, there's all of the buses that come in, the delivery vehicles for all of the mail that go into the post office, people that want to get in there, there's a community center, there's the 7-day-a-week activity that goes on for the inn that's across the street. So it's very busy street, but it's a wonderful street. Everybody's happy. People go slow. We've got all the people that are walking from this parking lot that usually go down. People are carrying ice cream from Via Via. It's wonderful. But when there's a tour bus that's stopped at the corner on that road, people can't get in. So that tour bus stopping there is keeping traffic backed up even further. It's not just that they want to get on through and get to Main Street. So that's a problem when we can't get through there. I've seen buses, because I can see it from my living room, I've seen them when they're sitting right at the intersection, waiting to get onto Cross Street. So that's the Elm Street problem with the buses backing up. When they talked at the last meeting that I watched, they were talking about having maybe, was it 3 buses an hour, or 3 buses every 15 minutes? I don't see how you get more than 2 buses on that street, assuming that even if you make it a 20-minute stop, somebody has to get their bus there to get their full 20 minutes. And I actually Googled it, how much time do you need to get people off and on a bus? And if they're over 60, they need 15 to 25 minutes. If they're over 50, they need maybe 5 minutes less. But if they have to come from somewhere else and get their spot right at the beginning of the 20 minutes, so they have their 20 minutes and then they've got to get out of there, I don't see how 20 minutes even does it, if it takes that long. So if the problem is people, for now, is people backing up on the main street, I think we need more time, or fewer buses, more time. That also fits with if one of the buses is waiting for somebody, they're running late, and they're waiting for them to get their ice cream, because I know that happened last year, a bus was delayed by 15 minutes because of ice cream. You've got the issue of how do you deal with the bus that should be leaving, like cruise ships, they leave, they don't wait for people to get to them. So I think we need to figure out what the number is that truly can fit on that street, what the time sequence is. Using that app, do you want to leave a little bit of time between the 20 minutes or at the end of an hour so that if there is a delay that you can kind of catch up and clear it out? But it's just too congested. There's too many people. I think the time frame is quite wrong. So that's my input, is just have very strict rules on, and make it clear if they're signing up on that app, do they need to leave? I think somebody also talked about there's going to be somebody there supervising it the whole time. You'd have to be.
It's a proposal, right?
That
Yeah, it's
goes
a
with
thought.
what other
Yeah,
people were
it's a
saying.
thought.
You'd have
Yeah.
to be to make this work, or it doesn't work. But I also agree with it's a safety hazard, because it just is, because you can't see around those buses. When I've come home and I'm coming south on Spring to turn right onto Temple, and the bus was parked right on the corner there, waiting to get onto Cross. I was trying to get around the bus so that I could pull onto the street. You can't see anybody. There's a crosswalk right there. So it's just not a good situation. So for now, until we have discussions about over-tourism at a later date, yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Sure thing.
Anyone else?
Sure. I guess I'll be pro-business here. My name's Stephanie. I have 2 cool, and I've had Digs, Divots, and Dogs at 2 Ocean Ave, right across street. It was in my family for like 25 years, so I've seen a lot of what's going on there.
You say where are you living now, please?
I live in Biddeford, but I have 2 cool that's
This shot.
down at 2 Ocean Ave yet. I know there's always like this controversy of bus people that they don't spend money and that they're just here, but I've got to say, Too Cool, really, like, my June was pretty awesome this year, thanks to, part of it probably was Bar Harbor cruises weren't allowed to go there, so they stopped here instead. I had a really great June. My September and October, on days that there's no buses, yeah, the people are, there's people here. But the days that we have the buses, people are in there spending money, and I'm able to keep my staff on instead of ending them at the end of August. I'm able to keep 4 or 5 people employed right through Prelude. If the buses were all limited, I'd just be in there myself working. I can't take on the expense. And this is a great place to be. People are so happy to be here. I hope when I'm old, I get to take trips still. I might not be able to drive when I'm 80, but if I'm out there doing something, I should be darn happy that I'm seeing the world. And I think a lot of these people, they just want to have fun, and they just want to, so they take a little bit to cross the street. I lived in Boston for a long time. I sat in a lot of traffic. I've sat at the stop signs here, and 5 or 10 minutes isn't that bad. And to think that this 80-year-old person had a great day in Maine and saw the foliage, I think is pretty cool for them. I do think the chamber has done a great job over the past few years. I think they've tried to organize things. I was talking with them today, and they did say that you might want to try to get in touch with this one Diamond Tours, but underneath Diamond Tours, there's like 25 other bus drivers. So I think it does need to be maybe just more instruction to the bus driver. This is where you should go park your bus. And I also noticed that probably, like I said, being there for probably 15 or 20 years and seeing this at Cross Street, to me personally, I feel like it's 2 weeks that are kind of torturous of the entire season. I think it's 2 weeks in October when the foliage is peak, and those are the days to me that it really, those are the ones that the buses back up. Otherwise, like, even when I look at the bus schedule, I don't even think all the buses show up that said they were gonna show up. I don't know, I just personally, like, they spend money, they're here to have fun, we should be welcoming. I do hear like about, like, then maybe there's some safety problems that maybe someone does need to be there, and it sounds like someone does to help people cross, but for the most part, I'm able, like, I drop stuff off at my store, I'm able to get my car in there. There's a couple times I've had to drive around and make another loop because buses are there, but for the most part, I've had plenty of space to get my car through while the buses are pulled over. And I understand that people have walkers that are on these tours, and I'm just gonna take a, an extra second and be happy.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Kate?
Hi, Kate Bauer-Burke. I live over at Goose Rocks. I can't speak that much to the mechanics that we've been discussing about how to make this summer work, so I'm probably talking to a slightly bigger issue, but it was somewhat triggered by some things you said about the fact that this problem we're trying to deal with, and there is an exponential increase in tourism in this town. From the 10, 12 years we've lived here, exponentially increased. And while I respect our business community and I like to be welcoming to visitors, it obviously negatively impacts our life as residents here in the town when we have no connection to the tourism industry or the hospitality industry. But one of the things that's bothered me for a while, I've questioned, is what exactly does the town benefit? How does the town benefit financially? I'm talking the town. And already we're talking about possibly having to add another town staffer, or presumably somebody paid by the town, to manage this bus situation, which goes again to one of my concerns on the overall extreme growth of tourism is the drawdown on the town's resources, which ultimately are paid for by us, the taxpayers, and the residents. I think there's a disconnect there that I really wish you would continue to think about really hard. Okay, that's all.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hi,
Hi.
my name is Ashley. I'm from Allison's Restaurant.
Where do
I
you live, Ashley?
I live in Kennebunk. I've lived here my whole life. I know it's a different town, but but my family, no, that's okay. My family has owned Allison's for more than 50 years, and I've worked in this town for more than 30 years at this point. So first, I just want to say that I don't discredit any of the safety issues with the buses. I do understand that there are probably, like Steph said, safety issues that need to be addressed or ordinances that need to be enforced. But I just want to make clear, something that was just said, was that residents that are disconnected from the hospitality industry or things like that. But I think residents eat at the local restaurants, they shop at the local shops. And I can say that we are probably, I know that we are busiest in September and October when the buses are in town. We employ 83 fairly local, many Biddeford, Saco area people. So it really does impact them. It impacts their income. And without the tour buses, I don't know that we would be able to stay open year round. I know that we close for January. But it is likely that we would close closer to the end of August. And I don't know that we could be open for Prelude. I don't know that we could support 83 employees. through that time. So I hope that that is taken into consideration as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, a bunch of tall people.
Hello, I'm Tanya Alsberg. I live here in Kennebunkport, and I have a shop on Dock Square. This will be our 12th year there. And as a business owner, who I make the products that are in my shop, and they're higher priced than some things, than small souvenirs, for instance. The volume of bus tourists that are in the shop in September and October has caused our business to go down in those months. And it's caused a lot of our customers to tell us specifically that they don't want to be in town in the fall. They used to, 8 years ago, come into town after summer to enjoy a little bit of the quiet and still be able to shop at all of our beautiful shops. And so there's two things that I think just should be considered, is if we want to have, we have this really beautifully unique shopping experience here. Some towns along the coast don't. Some towns along the coast are all one thing. They're all one price. We have a lot of variety here. We have a lot of price differentiation and a lot of different things, right? Not one of us is perfect for every person that comes to town. But if a business like mine can't make it because there's so many people, and I was a friend of mine who leads the tourists that come off the buses. We were talking last night because he was concerned, oh no, what if there are no buses? Which my understanding is that's not even on the table. But maybe limiting them. But he was telling me that no, when they get on the bus, they've eaten and maybe they got a keychain, but they're not carrying bags of much with them most of the time. That's my experience. So I would say that making sure that we keep a variety of shops in our town is going to make it what makes it a special visiting experience for a lot of these people. The other thing is if the answer is always bring in more people, when, like what you said, David, that our infrastructure can handle only so much, then what's the experience of most of these tourists? Yeah, they'll come visit once because, hey, cool, I'm going to go see Kennebunkport. But if their experience here is that they can't find a seat at a table, there's nowhere for them to sit outside. We don't have a picnic area or seating. We have 2 benches. But that doesn't quite cover it. And I don't know where that would be, but the experience for them, if it's not a good experience for them, are they ever coming back? And do we just want them here once? I so enjoy my customers who come year after year and can share the experiences from the past years, and that's part of their joy is coming back. And I have a lot of them that aren't doing that. So I just think those are things to consider. I certainly don't think no buses, but I do think it would be nice to have a little bit of more reined in on that, because I would love for everyone to have a great experience when they're here.
Great. Thank you. Red Sox hat.
Pitches and catches.
You may have to lift the mic up.
Okay,
Next time we'll do the speaking order and height order.
okay. My name's Bob Wester. I live on School Street. I have the luxury of 2 observations. Not this past year, but the year before, I worked for the chamber with grading buses. My observation there is the vast majority of the bus problems, I worked with this lady too, wasn't exactly the buses from Portland. It was what I called gypsy buses.
Rogue.
Rogue,
We call them rogue.
yeah, that's probably more politically correct. You're a selectman, I'm not an elected official, so. But that's what I saw, you know, and those are the ones I would get in sort of confrontations with, because I tried to tell them to move on, do this, do that, and they didn't. And the chamber, for the most part, didn't even know they were coming. And this past year, I had the luxury of working for the town in the parking lot in Dock Square. And many times, those same buses were trying to unload in the entrance of that parking lot when we had spaces available. So that took money away from the town. But again, it's not the ones from Northeast or the ones Diamond Tours. That, again, I'm strongly saying that's not the culprits. It's not the people that the chamber works with. So I just thought I'd share that with you.
So,
No,
can I just ask a question? So, Bob,
Yep.
do you have a rough idea of the rogue proportional,
You know,
or
if I did a
if it's a
shift,
certain time of year or
Yeah.
anything?
Well,
you
I
could
only
give us?
did the September, October route 2 years
Okay.
ago. I had all summer at the parking lot, but, they're probably more in the fall time. But again, they were from like New Mexico, they were from Wisconsin and stuff like that. And I don't think a lot of these actually ever checked in. And they would do things, they would, again, try to unload other places. Those were the ones who were double stacking on Cross Street. I'm convinced that those are the ones. And again, I probably overextend my bounds trying to tell them where they should go. But that's me, so, but anyway, for the most part, it worked out
Do you
right.
think there was like kind of equal number of what would be a scheduled
No.
tour bus or a road bus?
So
or-
like a shift, I don't know, we'd have like, what, 20, 30 buses in a shift or
Yeah.
whatever. And probably about 5 or 6 of them were those.
Okay,
But again, you get one
25%,
that
that's
refuses to
good.
move, I'm not moving.
Oh,
You tell
yeah.
them they gotta move, they have to go to the trolley museum. They're not
Yeah,
gonna do that,
yeah.
so.
Thank
I just thought I'd share that.
Thanks,
I
Bob.
I will say, I think we've learned some things, thank you, Bob. I think we have learned some things that there's kind of, just so people know, there are, if you will, 3 buckets of buses. There are the buses that come off the cruise ships. We have the, another class of buses that are probably, let's call them leaf peeping tours. They are people coming who have chartered a tour. They've come to New England. Kennebunkport is a stop on their that day that they're, looking at Maine or whatever. And there's that group. And then you have another group that they come and they're maybe staying at one of the hotels, spending a few nights. Those aren't the ones getting off at Cross Street. So we do have the cruise ship buses that we have a pretty good handle on how many there are. I will share with you, I did look at the cruise ship calendar for this upcoming season. And I know there's some people here who could probably talk to it, but I'll jump in this a little bit. But I can tell you in September, for 19 days, there are going to be cruise ships in the city of Portland. And they will be dropping off at full capacity, possibly 66,000 passengers. Doesn't mean they're all coming to Kennebunkport, but that's the capacity in September. And in October, we have 17 days in October where there are cruise ships coming into Portland with about 42,000 passengers if it was fully booked. For a total, it looks like in the season, cruise ships, based on the schedule now, is about 160,000 passengers could be coming into Portland. And some of them obviously will come to Kennebunkport. But to the what we're hearing about September and October, it is just from the cruise ships. It's abundantly clear that probably every day the cruise ship is in town, someone is at least coming into town. And starting at the last week in August, running through September and October, you're looking at basically every day of the year. So I'm throwing that out, doesn't mean it, it's more information we have. I think that we need to get a better handle on the bucket that is call them the leaf peepers, which are coming in at the same time. The rogue buses, whatever we want to call them. I don't think they're as rogue as we think they are, but from the town's perspective, we don't know. So I just throwing that out there, that's a little bit more information. Come on.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Kristen Nagy, and I serve as the Director of Member Development for the KKA Chamber of Commerce. We support nearly 650 businesses across our 3 towns and serve as the DMO for our community. The Chamber fully supports efforts to improve safety, reduce congestion, and ensure a positive experience for residents and visitors alike. I want to be clear that we cannot rush this and we cannot isolate this. Motor coach travel is a real part of Maine's visitors' economy. In 2024, motor coach travel generated an estimated $352 million in direct spending and a total economic impact of $798 million statewide, supporting over 4,600 jobs and $141 million in taxes. The report estimates that each Maine household would need to pay an additional $229 to replace that revenue. Cruise tourism also has a measurable impact. Based on a draft 2024 report soon to be published, direct cruise impact in Maine is estimated at $214 million, supporting roughly 1,000 jobs in our state. Locally, we estimate that at least 30,000 visitors came to the Kennebunks in 2025 through cruise or motor coach travel, and that number is solely based on those who registered with us at the Chamber. Looking specifically at September and October, which is the peak season, we had 188 scheduled cruise buses over those 2 months. On the busiest days, no more than 11 cruise buses arrived in a single day. By contrast, non-cruise motor coach tours registered with the chamber totaled just 47 buses over those same 2 months. And I want to emphasize here, this number reflects only what was registered with us. Many independent motor coach operators do not register, which highlights a larger challenge. We currently lack effective tools to consistently reach all operators before they arrive. So while this current discussion may feel like traffic control, it is also an economic and community sustainability issue, one that affects our businesses, our employees, and our municipal tax base. Tourism in our community continues to grow. We can't legally stop them from coming, so the question before us is whether we manage it thoughtfully with a plan that is safe, realistic, and regionally coordinated. We also want to acknowledge a process concern. Motor coach operators have received communication suggesting changes, including a reservation system, that are already being implemented for this upcoming season. At the same time, the board has stated that nothing is set in stone yet without a public meeting and vote first. For trust and compliance, it's essential that communication aligns with the board's stated process. The chamber is not here to oppose change. We're here to be part of the solution. And with that, we're specifically asking for 3 things. First, a defined evaluation and data collection period before major operational changes are implemented. Second, a regional working group that includes Kennebunkport, Kennebunk, local businesses, the chamber, and operators, because changes here will absolutely impact Kennebunk as well. If buses are displaced, if staging changes, or if unloading is restricted, that activity doesn't disappear, it shifts, and we need to plan for that proactively. And third, a pilot-based approach, including split locations, timed arrivals, improved signage, and enforcement before permanent rules are adopted. Cross Street is a very small road, as we've all been talking about tonight. If it cannot safely handle the volume, the solution is not squeezing it tighter. It's exploring a different location strategy. We recommend testing bus capacity in real conditions before setting hard limits, because in practice, it may be that 2 buses is the safe maximum, and if that's the case, then we need a different plan entirely. And we also need to fully understand what these rules do operationally when weather, traffic, and delays happen, because buses don't operate like passenger cars. If a bus is delayed, or inclement weather, or if passengers are elderly, or when ADA needs require safe curb access and a realistic staging plan. And lastly, we need to acknowledge a reality. Not every driver follows the rules. Some operators may have a plan, but drivers sometimes make their own decisions once they arrive, including illegal drop-offs. That's why we should immediately explore a last-mile approach for this coming season with clear signage, etc., in Kennebunkport and Kennebunk to guide buses before they reach the village, because currently we only have 1 sign on Cross Street. Tourism management is bigger than traffic control, and we need to be prepared to manage that experience once guests arrive, and also ask what that experience looks like when there is confusion, unsafe loading, or lack of staging options. The chamber stands ready to help. We want to protect public safety and quality of life while sustaining the economic health of our communities. Thank you.
Thanks. I will just address one thing that was said in there, because I know some people in the emails they sent us asked about why there was a postcard provided at the motor coach convention in Reno. The reason that was done was to let the tour operators know that the town was starting to look at this issue, and that it was a way for them to know that this was coming, that they should probably stay in touch, stay informed, that there may be changes coming for the upcoming year that would directly impact them. So that's why that was done. It was not done as we're making the changes. It was done as these operators do provide, start planning these tours out, we realize, months and months, maybe even a year in advance, but the town doesn't have that luxury. So it was a way of telling them, stay tuned, because there possibly will be some changes coming for this season for them directly. Again, I think the chamber made a great point, but some of those points will be longer term. I'm going to let other people speak first, Sarah, just in case. Anyone else want to speak? Why don't you come up?
Hi, my name is Karen. I'm the manager of Abacus. I do not live in town. I live in Biddeford Pool. But first of all, I just want to say, I'm offended for the people on the buses that are now being classified into classes. You know, ones that buy keychains. Being a business manager, we do a lot of business during that time. Like other people have said here, it extends our season. It helps me keep staff on that otherwise would be laid off and not have a place to go. The business I manage is Abacus, right behind Cross Street. Sure, I've seen a little bit of clustering going on there. But it also makes me sad for the person who said, well, you know, it takes some older people an extra 5 minutes with their walkers. I just think that we need to support these people who want to come here. I mean, my mom, who has since passed away, my family was very wealthy, but that was their favorite thing to do, was to go on a leaf peeping tour. And when they were not mobile, they still loved to do it. And it bothers me that we're not supporting that. And like I said, I'm not a resident of this town. I live in Biddeford Pool, but I grew up here. So it just makes me sad that we're, you know, basically chasing these people away from this beautiful town. It's 2 months.
Okay, thank you. I don't think anyone is chasing anyone away, but thank you. Susan, why don't you come up? And then, Susan, then we'll go.
Thank you. I'm Susan Graham, and 24 years ago, I was sitting where you are tonight. And there's another person in the room, but I'm not going to reveal that person's identity. But it really brings me back. And I appreciate the civility with which people are talking tonight. I do support your efforts to do something to manage tour bus visits. And I think 10 is too many per hour. You're going to run into scheduling issues if you try to get 10 in to drop off and 10 in to pick up. So I hope you'll look at a lower number so that it would have a better chance of success if you start with a small number. I also think 10 minutes is unrealistic to discharge or pick up people. The buses are huge today, much bigger than they were 24 years ago. I think the town has to have a conversation about capacity, because we just can't allow the cruise ship industry to be dictating how many visitors we get here via tour buses. And that's basically what's been happening. So I appreciate that you're going to do something about it. I think that if you can implement the reservation system, I hope you will consider moving the drop-off zone away from Cross Street. It was intended to be there for 1 year, back in 96 or 98, whenever it was first. We tried. I think you can try to find a better location within the commercial business district, not only within potentially the town's own property, the municipal parking lot, but there are 2 private property owners who own parking lots in Dock Square zone. And both of them, maybe you should be having, maybe the business community should be having conversations about that. Because I would note that the town of Kennebunk does nothing. Everything in Lower Village is being done by private businesses. 2 bathrooms, the Hotel Grand Hotel, the Pilot House, and then the Pilot House and the Performance Marina for parking. So why do we do so much here? Why do we, have this feeling that we have to do everything for everybody? I think we need to look at Kennebunk. I'll shut up, but I have a few more things to say. It's really important to do something soon, as you know. the cruise ship business is going to increase in Portland because of our harbor. Our harbor has set a limit. The boats are going to go somewhere. They're not going to be able to go to Bar Harbor after next year. I think this is the last year. So hopefully you'll act soon. And just anecdotally, I was sitting at the stop sign in front of the Baptist church, headed to the post office, and there was a bus parked on Main Street in front of that white house on the corner that has a fence. And when I got downtown, I could see that the passengers were walking around. It was about 9:30 in the morning, but none of the shops were open. And within the hour, they went across street and left. And I had to wonder what kind of an experience that was for people. I would have been so disappointed to have been promised a visit to Kennebunkport and then dropped off in the morning and everything's closed. So I'll just leave with a question. When did the town of Kennebunkport start paying the chamber to handle reservations? How much have we paid them? I mean, annually, how much do we pay? And where did the money come from? And I'll leave you with that. Thank you. Do I get an answer?
We'll get back to you on that one. We don't have that right. But we will get back to you on that one.
Hey, I'm Ben. Ben Fitzpatrick. I grew up in Kennebunk. Lived here my whole life. Still live in Kennebunk. My uncle Fred opened Federal Jacks. Fred Forsey opened Federal Jacks in 1992. So that's my business now. We just took over. So I've worked there as a young man my whole life, and was gone for a while, and I'm back as the leader of that business now. And I've really seen when I was a kid, you know, the buses coming through, and I was excited to be here tonight, and I see what it does for our business now. I was super excited to be here tonight because I really wanted to hear why we're all here from the residents and hear their, you know, their real concerns. Because from a business standpoint, it's huge. We're a business that tries really hard for our employees to stay open all year long. We do that in the negative numbers for 3, sometimes 5 months out of the year. You know, and we see towns around us really die off, you know, Wells and other towns around. Come September, October, talking to other bars and things, you know, we're able to continue to do really well, and I think a lot of that's due to these buses. It's clearly due to the buses. So I hear comments of, you know, we don't have room, like, we have plenty of room at Federal Jacks. We're so excited. we got all kinds of room for these guys to come in. And I think a lot of our restaurants, you know, feel that way. I've heard people saying, you know, it'd be hard to stay staffed until Prelude, and I do think that's a very real thing. So the things I'm excited that I've heard tonight is, you know, it sounds like if we can get some get after these bus drivers, and I know bus drivers, I know they're going to make a decision on what they see. Sometimes they're going to open their door, and someone needs to keep them accountable. That's what I was looking for. Accountability with our bus drivers in this season, and then you all have a big task of finding what to do with these buses, because it is so huge for our businesses. And what I want to say too is you know, it's a lot of people. What an awesome opportunity it is to show this to, yeah, they're 80 years old, whatever age they are, it doesn't matter, because they're going to have a great time. They're going to tell their younger people, they're going to tell their friends and family. The bus tours are going to be successful. So I just, you know, hope we find a path and a good way to keep that business in town. And I want you to reach out to Kennebunk too, and make sure that Kennebunk is involved in your conversations, because there are private property owners. I've already been reached out to by one of the tour bus companies out of Portland. They want to do specific tours, brewery tastings. They're going to come down in a 40-foot bus, and I can get them in and out of my parking lot without affecting anyone else. So that's already a huge thing right there. And I think I don't own the you know, my uncle still owns the venue there, but there's a lot of room, and I feel like if someone came and talked to him and started nudging, like, how could we do this? We could loop back out onto Beach Ave. And I think there's probably a lot of that opportunity right in Kennebunkport too. So just saying, don't forget to talk to us on the other side of the bridge too, because it's very huge for us.
Great, thank you.
I just have a question for Ben, if possible. So do you get, so the Pilot House Parks buses, do you get customers from those
Yeah,
buses?
they'll get off the bus and the chamber is usually there to greet them. And they're smack right in between us and Pilot House and they go either way often. So, yeah.
And then when the tour bus was talking to you, and you don't have to answer this because it's your own business, but were they looking just to come in for a brewery and stay, or are they?
Yeah, that
yeah.
particular one was a brewery tour, and then they would have 2 hours in town, and those were people coming off cruise ships that were going to be in town, arriving at 8 a.m. and leaving at 11 o'clock at night. So those are just kind of one-day tours. They were going to load up on a bus and come see us, but yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that was the plan. And then also over just down on Port Road, 169 Port Road, is another place that a lot of buses park over there. But yeah, just organization. Sounds like just organization and accountability from bus drivers is what we need to figure out and a place for them to go.
Awesome.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers.
I like that he ended it
Tina?
with chairs. Did you pick that up? He ended up with chairs.
Hi there, good evening. My name is Tina Hewitt-Gordon. I'm the general manager at the Nonantum Resort. So I'm going to talk with that hat first, if I could, please. So the Nonantum is 140 years old, and we've been around for obviously quite a long time. Motor coaches really do take up they represent a very large part of our business as well. It's approximately 11% of our group revenue. We had 24 tours last year. We had 21 tours that just came in for lunches that come from the motor coach companies. So I will speak to the fact that it makes a very big impact on our business. We're very fortunate that we are able to employ 185 people. We are open from the beginning of May till the end of December. However, I still have another 29 people that I pay on a year-round basis. And a lot of that is because we are able to bridge the gap between the summer months going into Prelude. So we're obviously a taxpayer. I live in Kennebunk. I've been here for 35 years, but the Nonantum is a very big taxpayer here in our community. And so I fully support and I hear exactly what the residents are saying. I've been downtown. I understand the congestion, and I'm really excited that there are going to be some changes that need to be made. But again, I think they need to be done in a responsible manner and keeping all of the everybody's concerns. And I think it's a very tough balance to strike. So, but do know that it does make a big difference in our business and the fact that we can employ the number of people that we employ. I'm going to switch my hat right now if I could. I'm also the president of the Kennebunkport Business Association, and we represent about 120 individual businesses. And you know what? Not all of them love motor coaches. But what we all do love is the fact that we are one community and that we support each other. And that makes a really big difference. You know, you heard Ashley. I mean, to hear that Allison's could, you know, it's a big part of their business. They could end up closing. And we're a really big employer here in this town. And so when I hear comments that, you know, what do the businesses do for us? They do a lot. They're a part of the community, and they're part of the fabric that make Kennebunkport what it is. And I don't disagree that things have grown and tourism has grown, and we need to look at maintaining things from a responsible manner. We're just happy to be a part of the conversation, so thank you for allowing that. And we look forward to these conversations and to, you know, obviously hearing the needs of the residents, but I think it's really important that you hear the impact that it makes on these businesses and on the community and the workforce that we have.
And then I have a question too.
I have a question too.
Sure.
I have a question. The chair's turn.
Yeah, the chair's turn. I'm hitting my buzzard.
So when you have folks come for lunch, are they walking down from Cross Street, or do you, the buses come to you?
The buses come to us, yes.
That's what I would have thought, and so they can unload in your parking lot?
Yes.
And they can sit there and wait for them?
Correct.
And then load them back up and take them on their way?
Correct.
Lovely.
So that was kind of my question, was yours is what I call a third bucket, where they're coming into town, they're going to the Nonantum, they're parking in your parking lot, and you're providing their service and a business to them, and then they're getting back on their bus and they're continuing on. So that is, in a way, a third bucket of
It
buses
is-
that are coming into town but aren't in that cross street.
Well, no, that's not true, because,
do? Okay.
yes, they're coming to us, they may not be dropping off in Cross Street to be able to go to Allison's or Federal Jack's or Pilot House for lunch, or the Boatyard for that matter. They'll come to us for luncheon, but they do have the people dropped off in Dock Square so that they can shop. Typically, those buses aren't full. We're getting them from the cruise ships. They're coming down as a specialty.
Okay.
Yeah, so it is still adding to some of that.
You had a question, Mirabel?
My question was the same as your
Oh,
questions,
okay.
but we do have John got there first. But we do have the third bucket that you just talked about, which is the pilot, which we just know is the Pilot House, right? Because they do have that, so, but that was good.
And
Thank you.
just thank you very much. I just, again, will say, we understand, and any further conversations that we had would include all the businesses too, because no one here is trying to put anyone out of business.
And we are working with Kennebunk, so.
So
that's
we're
very
trying to work with Kennebunkport.
Indeed. Good point.
Thank you.
Trying.
Yeah.
Shannon Dant from, it's like The Price is Right. Come on down.
Hi, my name is Shannon. I am a resident of Kennebunkport. I grew up across the bridge in Lower Village. My family owned and operated both Meserve's Market and Chase Hill Bakery. Rest in peace. I grew up not calling tourists tourists. That was not allowed in our house. We called them visitors because it was explained to me at a very young age that they put the food on your plate and they put the clothes on your back. As an adult, I call them tourists, but I just have a few things to say. As a Kennebunkport resident, I enjoy really low property taxes. That's wonderful. The question of what is the cost to the town, what is the benefit with the buses, blah, blah, blah. I'm not talking about our businesses, I'm talking about town government. I do have questions about that, and that was an interesting thing that I heard tonight. I absolutely think that there needs to be accountability. The fact that none of these buses have been given citations, if that is true, that's bananas. That's completely bananas, and unacceptable. I have been stopped on, I don't know, what's the road that, if you take a right to go to the post office, is it Spring Street?
Spring Street.
Spring Street, okay. I was stopped there 2 years ago, and a bus was unloading people into the Kennebunkport Inn, and they were coming on and off, and I wrote a letter to the select board and heard nothing, but that was a different group.
Of course it was.
Of course it
Yes,
was.
Of course it was.
I think the idea of a different offload area sounds very interesting in partnership with our neighbors in Kennebunk. Those lower village businesses are benefiting from our bus situation. And I know that the Pilot House has their parking lot, but that's a private group. So you're trying to work with Kennebunk, that's great. And I'd also, it sounds like, do we need to workshop this? Like, this is not a new problem.
No.
I was just in Italy and Greece on a cruise, and I got off the cruise and did excursions. And talk about tight infrastructure. They got it over there. So, what are they doing? What are some solutions that, this isn't a new problem? Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
No, thank you. No, it's not a new problem, and it is a problem that a lot of communities deal with. So I think there are things that we potentially, for the future, could learn from some of these other communities. The gentleman who I thought was coming up last.
Good evening. My name's Jason Briggs. I live in Biddeford, Maine. I represent VIP Tour and Charter Bus Company. I'll just give you some statistics of the motor coach industry. In 2019, there were over 3,000 motor coach companies in the United States. 92% of them are family-owned. 60% of those have 5 buses or less. Those would probably be what you'd call renegades.
Gross.
So when people retire, a fellow and his wife, she's the hostess and he's the driver, and they may go to communities they've never been to before. That's where that could happen. In Maine, there are only 4 bus companies primarily, and maybe 2 are smaller family ones. But and we're all Maine families. VIP, Northeast, in Auburn, Custom Coach in Gorham, and Sear in Old Town. And Destinations North America uses almost all Maine and New Hampshire family-owned buses, correct? So these are family-owned corporations. They're not the evil ones. And, you know, with us, for example, we probably come here more often to do weddings, Friday and Saturday nights, than we do with the fall foliage. We did 25 in 2025 here. So what happens is the local people that own bed and breakfasts or Airbnbs, instead of trying to pick up at all these houses, the wedding planners and us have said, can we pick you all up at one place? And of course, we happen to use a cross street. So those 2-3 people at a time go there. So that's another whole market that you haven't even touched. And Governor Mills said several years ago that the destination wedding business for Maine is $1 billion industry, front page in the Portland Press Herald. And she welcomed it, and usually has been very supportive of tourism as well. So the four of us in Maine primarily only own 90 buses between us, from Fort Kent to Kittery, 90 buses. And so we're families, everybody works hard, and we live in different communities in here, and of course, Portland, Cape Elizabeth, Bar Harbor, York, all have similar problems. Cape Elizabeth people hate us because we go to the lighthouse. York hates us because we're downtown. Bar Harbor doesn't like us because of the cruise ships. But yet everybody wants to be green, but you don't want to take 40 cars off the road to put them on a bus. So that sometimes, I just don't understand that. And it may not be a problem much longer because the progressives have taken over Portland and the cruise lines may not be around much longer. So if that happens, you'll lose a tremendous amount, and it looks like they're on a strong winning streak right now. So this may not be a problem in 2027 or 28. So, but that's our industry, and I just wanted to also let you know that the wedding guests aren't just buying keychains and T-shirts. They're staying here for 3 to 4 days and staying in people's property that they, which is mostly Airbnbs. So I'm sure a lot of property owners here in town have Airbnbs.
So a question, you said that you know, a lot of your business is, let's say, wedding parties,
Right.
and they're on a motor coach. You're bringing the motor coach in to
We
cross.
bring the motor coach
to
into
cross
town.
street.
And then take them to wherever the
Wherever they go.
reception
But
might be.
I'm going to ask you a
or
question.
whatever.
Are you? I'm not trying
Do
to put
we
you on the,
register?
I'm not putting you on the spot,
Oh.
but are you familiar with the town's current ordinances, and do you allow the town to know you're coming to pick the wedding party up?
Well, they're usually after 7 p.m. Is that the end time?
Well, technically, you're only supposed to be there up to 7, but I'm just asking you a question. I'm not, do you
Do
know?
I personally know?
Yes,
Because
no.
I've been the lobbyist for the last 2 years, so I've been just
But
fighting for
the
the
company
industry, so-
doesn't.
It's
Okay,
supposed
that's
to be.
fine. I know, all right.
Yeah.
Jason,
Yes.
so do you do the 4 family carriers carry from the cruise, from Portland to the towns also, or is that a different? Okay, so,
Different variations.
but it's all Maine, it's Maine buses that.
Well, I wouldn't
so-
say it's all Maine, but it's generally Maine, isn't it, Greg? Maine
Okay.
and some New Hampshire, but they're family-owned as well, so.
Okay, and so they're the ones that are picking from the cruise ships
Right.
and bringing them into the towns? Okay.
Okay, that's all.
Great,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
And, no, you're all set, thanks. Since you've been outed, would you like, the hidden guest on the second row, would you like to
So
speak?
my name is Greg Gordon. I work for a company called Destinations North America. I grew up in Cape Elizabeth and I live there now. We work with the majority of the cruise lines that come into Portland, and we do support a safe environment, to your point from the beginning, of making sure that we're following the ordinances that the town has in place, understanding the realities of challenges of cross street. We only allocate from our company 2 buses at any given time. We might have a tour that incorporates one trip that does a trip to Kennebunkport, but we have 4 or 5 or 6 variations of that program to make sure that we're sustainable and supporting the local community and making sure that we're not overlapping those buses at the same time. So a lot of the concerns I think that we're talking about are the non-local motor coaches that are bringing groups from away into the communities. And those people need to be educated, I think, a little bit better than they have been on what the parameters are for Kennebunkport and also the communities of Kennebunk so that we have sustainability and we don't upset the community. The area of Cross Street is a challenging location. I welcome the opportunity in the future to be part of the discussion, not the decision-making, of what the community wants to do. And know that we do have our tour guides that we have is about 50 of them. Some of them are local, from the local community of Kennebunk and Kennebunkport. And we have meetings kind of talking about our challenges, addressing the concerns of Kennebunkport, the routings that we take, and making sure that we're a good partner along the way.
How many hours? So
So-
you're bringing are you primarily bringing the cruise ships in, or?
Our company only works with the cruise ships, so
Okay.
that's our only sole focus. And we work primarily from May until the end of October, maybe the beginning of November, and we're bringing just cruise line guests. When they come to Portland, the cruise line can be in port from anywhere, from calls from 7 a.m. until 1 p.m. in the afternoon, or it could be in the afternoon from 12 noon until 8 o'clock at night, or it could be a full day program. Then we take that information and identify what the historical data is for those guest experiences and identify what tours that they've sold in the past and make sure we have a program that's sustainable for the communities and the guest experiences.
And so when
they-
you're coming into
when
our
they come
town.
to Kennebunkport, the guests are in Kennebunkport, usually between an hour and a quarter to 2 hours in length for their visitation.
And so just, because you're here, so this is great information.
Sure.
So, are they able to take in a meal, or what do they primarily, again, just roughly
Sure.
right?
So the guests, when they come down to Kennebunkport into this community, we have 4 or 5 different tours. So some are a full day program that will go to the Nonantum and visit there, and they'll have a lobster roll lunch. They might go and stop at the Pilot House and go on a boat cruise and then have free time to explore. Other ones will just come to Kennebunkport as a full day, as a program where they are doing the same exact experience, but not going to the Nonantum. So they might have 2 hours of free time. Other ones are just going to do a half-day trip coming to Kennebunkport, and those, they will go out to the beaches, so kind of like the Gooch's Beach Drive, stop in Kennebunkport, and as they drive out of town, they might go by the Bush compound.
So the buses are taking them out to Gooch's Beach?
They are, correct,
Okay.
yes. So our programs are that length, and that's mainly because of the length of time that the programs are operating the hours of port. Now, you have non-cruise ship buses that could be on, and I don't want to speak for the operators that are doing multi-day trips, but they could be on an itinerary of 7 days of like a Tauk tour.
Yeah.
And part of their experience can be coming into Kennebunkport.
Right.
And so I know that their visit might be for an hour and a half to make sure that they've gone to a bathroom, and they use that as a stopping point along the way. From our perspective, the motor coaches that we use and operate, we let them use the bathrooms on the motor coaches. So I know that is a concern that people do have as you start to delve into this discussion.
I have one more question, if I
course.
can. Am I okay? Generally, are people walking a lot when they come in town?
So I think that they all stay within a certain radius. So they're going to stay within the business community. They might have a few that might go out to the Historical Society at the very end, but they're primarily staying within the business community just because of the time that they have in Kennebunkport,
Okay.
in Kennebunk. And I think that I like the idea of making sure that Kennebunk also has part of this discussion, and not the sole focus has to be on Kennebunkport. And so that's something that we're going to be working towards as well. And I have been around since like 2001 doing this, so I know that part of our buses are part of the problem from the beginning. I understand the volume, I understand the congestion problems, and I want to just say is that I know that we had some issues this season, and I spoke to Sarah, who has some concerns about the motor coaches. We addressed those concerns almost immediately, but I think some of the other challenges that we have in the community is the buses that don't understand the ordinances and aren't following the process and stopping in other places that are not safe. And we don't want any of that to happen, but we do have drivers that are not following those rules. But anytime these things happen, I think that they should be held accountable from the ordinances and the police department to manage that.
Can I just ask you a couple other questions?
Of
on
course.
here? And I'm not putting you on the spot, I'm just to clarify.
I have my notes here if I
I
need
know.
them.
So, you know, September, October, some of these buses, as you know, I looked at this calendar, I know who's coming in. So, let's just take the 22nd of September.
Sure.
7,000, potentially 7,000 passengers are gonna get off a boat in Portland. On average, what percentage of the people on a cruise ship have booked a tour that would involve Kennebunkport?
So, can I step back for a 30 second? I'll try to make it very short. I think I'm over my three
You're
minutes.
fine. We do-
Sorry about that.
Every question's another 3
Oh, wow, so I'm like 12 minutes now. So
tell me
the
to stop
answer-
asking them, right?
So let's just talk about it from the larger perspective. When the cruise line comes in, the cruise line shore excursion programs is a large revenue stream for them. They make their money from alcohol as one level, onboard experiences, which is like the spa, et cetera. And then the last bit is the shore excursions when they come into the port. So approximately 20 to 40% of all guests will go on a shore excursion. And of that, speaking, and as you start to drill it down into Portland, so we have tours, and there are other operators like Jason from VIP that do bring groups to the White Mountains and to North Conway and the Conway Scenic Railway. And then there's walking tours in Portland, there's schooner rides, and there's also groups that will come down to Kennebunkport. So if you take all that information into account, probably 20% will probably come down to Kennebunkport on a tour.
So just
of that 40%. So if we take it based on last year's numbers, we have a diverse number of cruise ship visitations to Kennebunk and Kennebunkport, and based on the volume, we don't want to overwhelm one area. So we split our groups between visitations to Cross Street and also the Pilot House, and sometimes even to Lower Village that we've worked on a few different occasions. And we're working towards making that a larger percentage going forward so that we're not impacting the community as much.
I heard Federal Jacks is open for lunch.
They are, yeah. We got to work on their parking turning radius.
So the question then also is, you know, looking at the schedule, some of these boats come in, they're unloading at 7, they're arriving in Portland at 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning. Some of them are there till 6 at night, some are only there till 1:30.
Sure.
So, someone who said that,
So
I think, somebody said that, you know, they've seen people come in, I've seen it too, they've come into town, the very early shops aren't open. Or they're coming in as the season's progressing, the days are getting shorter, they're coming in, being dropped off later in the day, it's getting dark and the shops aren't open. I mean, is that being factored in, or are we truly maybe possibly doing some of this and it's not an experience for these people to have?
So I think as part of the experience, we do share with them kind of the comments about the duration of the programs. We do have the limitations of the finite time for the ship in port. So where we want to be able to use a bus from a business perspective multiple times during the day, we might not be able to do that for our trips on a shorter day in port. So if a ship is in from 7 a.m. until 1 p.m. in the afternoon, then we're going to have a tour to Kennebunkport that goes from 9 a.m. until 12:30, and they're going to be doing their visitation to Kennebunkport later in the morning so that they can do the other driving and visitations to Gooch's Beach and the Bush Compound. But there are times that we definitely are unable to kind of support that, and they do come in earlier in the day before some of those things are open. In those situations, we look towards HB provisions or whatever they're called right now, and then also some of the other places.
Hey, I got one quick
course,
question, if it's
sure.
permissible. What's the maximum number of buses that you've had in Kennebunkport on your best day?
Can I look at my numbers?
Ballpark.
So a ballpark. So a long time ago, we definitely overwhelmed Kennebunkport and Cross Street, and that was like in 2001 when one of your colleagues from a long time ago.
I can't
so that was a
remember
long time ago.
2001.
So
How about
now,
in the last 3 years?
So in the
since
last three
COVID? I mean,
last 3 years, we're really looking at only 2 motor coaches at a time visiting Cross Street. There might be a situation where we were a little bit that we might have overdone those numbers, but that was in a perfect world where we'd have a bus on paper that looks great to start in a half-hour window, and another half hour later, those 2 buses were going to come in. We realized that wasn't really realistic, and we changed it. But overall, I think our busiest days for last year or this year, we put about 17 motor coach unique visits into the community.
In a day.
So,
in a day.
Okay.
So that would have been 37
34.
or so. 34.
So, this is kind of a quick question back to the chamber. So when the list comes out that says there's 25, 30 buses coming into town in a day, is that primarily cruise ship buses? And they're just coming to the Kennebunks? If they're not coming to Cross Street, but they're coming to the Kennebunks. And that's because, let's just say, they have told you that this is who's coming. So that's, so when you get, when, I'm just saying, sometimes it has gone out that there's 20 and 30 buses coming to town on some days.
So what we communicate.
Just come up, sorry, I didn't mean to,
Yeah,
yep.
thank you.
So we put together a spreadsheet with our schedule. We always put in there that it is subject to change at any given time. The schedule indicates the date of arrival times, and it's a combination of both cruise and motor coach buses, and it has a breakdown of Cross Street and Pilot House of the locations.
Thanks.
I've got a quick.
Oh, sure. Of course.
I got like two quick ones. So you had mentioned that you were looking at, okay, so my first one is there, when you're dropping off in other towns, is there something that's working there that we should be thinking about?
So I think, I'm not trying to look at the future right now, but just looking at your current.
Right.
I have ideas for the future, but I know it's the wrong time.
But just
So-
like
so-
something
so
that we
right
would
now-
look at, to David's point, for
So to David's point
now.
for right now, Cross Street is a very challenging location. So if you look at Cross Street and you look at trying to have a box truck pass by a motor coach or even a car, it's very, very tight. And your comment, finding a mechanism that allows space to allow each motor coach or each group visiting to be able to pick up and drop off as an independent entity by itself is beneficial for the operations.
And how long does it take to load and unload?
Anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes or so, realistically.
And so that's what we should be thinking about, like,
At one, in a perfect world, but then, you have in that 15-minute window, then you also have all the challenges of driving. Was there an accident on the turnpike coming down? Was the bus that came in from, sorry.
No, I was just,
I was just
the question,
thinking
like,
about
to-
people
you've-
physically
you've-
getting in
Yeah,
and
you've
out.
arrived on Cross Street, the door's
Yeah.
open.
Like, how long
So
should
between
we?
10 or 15 minutes, if you have a guest that has a wheelchair on it, that lift could take a lot longer. Motor coaches can handle 2 lifts, 2 wheelchairs at a time. So in those situations, you would not be able to be complacent in 15 minutes.
So to
It'd
some
take a little
extent,
bit longer.
the ordinance that says 10 minutes is probably
I think
outdated.
Outdated, I would say that's correct.
And that's 15 to 20 on a sunny day, because everything's slower when it rains, right? I mean, people are more cautious going
Sure,
down
of
the
course.
steps, and I mean,
And in your experience, how many buses do you think Cross Street could handle at one time?
2.
2, okay, thank you.
I'm happy to answer any other questions you guys have.
I have
along the way.
I have one
Of course.
final, and then I'm done. I swear I'm done after this one.
Yes.
So you had mentioned about, you were now thinking, you had made the comment that now you were thinking, you utilize Pilot House and Cross Street, and you were thinking, and you also utilize,
The lower village, so where the trolleys are,
Right across from Pedro's.
from Pedro's, we use
Okay.
that space.
okay, and is there a detriment to that area, or is like you were utilizing it, you're thinking about utilizing it, or what are your thoughts? I wasn't following where you were going with that.
We were just trying to figure out what made sense for the guest experience when they came to Kennebunkport, when there were limitations with visits here. So in the summertime, the Pilot House is not an option for the motor coaches because of their volume that they have with their motor coach operations. So then we look at Cross Street and we also look at other locations to be successful. We've spoken about using Fred Forsley's parking lot by the laundromat as one example for a spot. And we've also used the trolleys up there. Ideally, that experience for the guests and walking down into the Dock Square into the Kennebunkport area is a little bit longer for those guests. So we try to allocate tours that give them 2 hours of length for that program. But ideally, we'd love to find something that's close by, that is in a location that has the least impact to the residential community, that also still supports the idea that the community wants tourism. I do feel that Kennebunk also needs to be, needs some skin in the game too, and can also find some, hopefully, a way to kind of help us out in the future too for motor coaches.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's like having an expert witness.
And then if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to talk to you guys
Sure.
afterwards. Okay.
Anyone on this side?
Dave, we have to look for people
Oh,
on Zoom
sorry,
too.
are there people on Zoom with their hands up?
We have 16 attendees, but no hands
Okay.
raised.
All right, so I'm gonna go to Tom.
Now we have a hand.
Tell them they're next. No, Tom, you come up, the hand up is next.
I appreciate people are tired, so I'm not going to take too much time because most of my points have been covered already. But I'm Tom Vanderschaff. I live at 17 Main, which is on the corner of Main and Union, which is around the corner from Cross Street. Could spend a lot more than 3 minutes telling you about seeing, hearing, smelling. I think I'm starting to taste the diesel fumes. It's a lot. But I actually wanted to spend more time on a couple specific topics I don't think have been covered. I'm also trying to weave in, spend a bunch of time reviewing our comprehensive plan, budget, and financials of the town. And so one of the questions I actually had is, it seems like, to use the skin in the game metaphor, revenues from buses and visitors are, direct revenues are the sales tax to the state, and the share back is 5%, right? So it's 5% of 5% that we're talking about?
It's
About five, yeah.
the direct.
Value based, so.
So we get a
Yeah.
quarter
We get
for every
a
$100
Yeah.
of commerce. Is that correct?
Correct, that's probably correct.
Okay, so that's for all the infrastructure and services that are consumed.
We don't get any
Yeah,
cash.
okay. So one thing I'd like the town to be thinking about, happy to participate in it, is much more aggressive and creative use of excise taxes to actually be fair and balanced, because it's missing. And it can also be used to help much more,
Are you talking a tax or you're talking a fee on the bus?
I would be open to any and all suggestions.
Well, okay.
So
Yeah.
I don't have the answers.
No,
I'm
all right,
tell- I'm-
yeah, no, okay.
You want to get
Well,
some revenue out
you-
of that.
Right.
I think to defray the impact on taxpayers would be
There is a
nice thing.
possibility of putting we charge people to park in Dock Square. We could charge a bus.
That's a good
fee
example.
to unload and unload, yes. So that's a possibility, yeah.
Yeah, so that should be, I think, on the table, because, I mean, I do agree we're talking about tens of thousands of buses and probably more than 500,000 visitors over the next decade. So it's not an inconsequential consequence to the town, with not much to offset it. The other thing, trying to think about solutions and win-wins, maybe it's more in the longer-term bucket, but I do think with especially pricing and managing the situation better, you can actually differentiate among the traffic and spend time thinking about what are the buses and the behavior that we want to have in town. I think for a lot of the businesses here, the short duration stays are not ideal. And I can tell you for the residents, they're not either. And so people that stay for 3 or 4 hours, that have time to sit down and have a meal, or even better, stay overnight, they're contributing a lot more. So I just offer that up as something that should be contemplated as we consider all these solutions. I certainly agree with trying to establish a cap and a quota system and trying to work that, but pricing would also allow you to emphasize more desirable, more beneficial, more fair tourism that contributes back to the community more, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
Good thoughts.
David, the person on Zoom?
They lowered their hand.
Okay. Did they want to put it back up?
I'm giving them a moment.
Is there anyone else in the room?
Anyone else in the meantime want to come up to the plate? Should I, want me to start picking on people?
No, no,
This
no.
has- This has been extremely useful. Thank you so much for everyone's time and sharing it very civilly as well.
Yeah.
And that's who we are here. And it's a wonderful, wonderful place to be.
And I would just like to, yes, I would like to thank everyone. Obviously, you've given us a lot of information. The board will continue to talk about this. We will continue to reach out to you folks. You should feel free to get in touch with us. I thank you. I think
You might mention the volume that
I
we've
mean, yes,
received
we did,
already,
yeah,
so
we,
thank you,
so thank you, and I think for the most part, we have
Wow.
tried to respond to everyone who sent in an email. If we didn't, we apologize. I did go out and talk to a lot of the businesses. Again, this is we need to deal with something for this season, which we're gonna try and do. We'll keep that open and transparent to you. Somebody may like it, somebody may not like it. And I think we will continue to have longer conversations about future possibilities to relieve some of the pressure on Cross Street. And we would encourage everyone,
Lori
businesses to be
has,
involved. Yep. Brian?
Lori has
David, I was just going to say, if people have written comments that they want us to forward to the board, we'd be happy to collect those and make copies for the board.
Yeah. Sure. Yep, Tina, one more question, quick question.
You go to the town website, and there's like contact, Selectboard.
Is there going to be a task force? Or, I mean, what are the next steps after this
I think we're going to
information?
continue to talk about it. I think probably yes, I think we'll put something together. My goal would be to put something together with businesses, residents.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah, let's close the meeting.
Motion, please to
Motion to adjourn.
So moved, second.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
John?
We
Yep.
are adjourned.
Aye.